Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's dustinkreis, and today we're going to talk about a game that I don't even know where to begin with this game. We're going to talk about God Hand for the PlayStation 2, brought to us by Clover Studios, one of those studios that sadly is missed these days, although Platinum Games made up by a bunch of people from Clover, so it's kind of the same, but, you know, and released over here by Capcom. This is probably one of the craziest games I've played. The only game that I can really think of to compare it to, not gameplay-wise, but just sort of the things that you're dealing with as you go through the game, is Deadly Premonition. And it really deserves to be spoken in the same breath as Deadly Premonition, because it's kind of one of those diamond-in-the-rough games that the entirety of the game really makes up for a lot of its shortcomings. And this game does have some pretty big shortcomings, but for some reason there's just such a charm to this game and such a weirdness to it that you keep coming back to it and wanting to finish it. And I could not, as frustrated as I got with this game, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop playing it. It's so weird how sometimes there are bad games that were just like, ugh, I hate this. And then there are bad games that are like, I know this is bad, but I love it, and God Hand definitely fits into that. Where to even start? The storyline, I'm not even going to try. Well, I can make an attempt. You play as a character named Jean, or Jean, or however you want to say it. And he has been entrusted with one of the God Hands. He loses his arm in a fight and meets this girl who happens to be the last protector of the only remaining God Hand left, and she fuses it to him, and then he sets out to sort of help her along the path of finding the other arm and securing it. And you fight countless gang members and demons, and to try to get back the God Hand and stop this demon from resurrecting on Earth. And that's the gist of the storyline and where it goes from there, and just the crazy, insane stuff you're going to see. This is a very Japanese game, and a very Japanese sort of sense of humor. And yeah, it's just always wacky. There's always something. I mean, I laughed out loud quite a bit. There's always these little stupid things, like in one stage you'll fight a gorilla, and when the gorilla turns around, you can clearly see a zipper in the back of the gorilla. And then when you beat him and you go up and examine him, he's like, "What the? There's a zipper here," There's just all these little quirky things to sort of keep you laughing. What I read was this is created by the creator of Resident Evil, Shinji Mikami. I'm not sure how to say his last name, but he wanted to make sort of a lighthearted action game. And it's funny whenever you come around a corner and you'll see enemies just kind of standing there, and they're doing this like little dance. Horseplay. They're doing this little dance thing. And it's just kind of a weird thing, because you're always expecting, like, enemies to be ready to fight you and stuff like that, and they're just kind of dancing around and doing stupid shit. The mature on the box and the cover art, which, this guy is punching someone's head clean off, it makes you think that this is a much more serious game than it actually is. This is a laugh-out-loud funny game, and it's kind of hard to find nowadays. It's definitely not something you see in the wild very often. On eBay and Amazon, you'll find it pretty easily. But yeah, it's really a humorous game, kind of in the same vein as Deadly Premonition. The gameplay is it's kind of weird, and it takes a lot of getting used to. There's a big learning curve with this game. The main thing is you control your character running around with a stick, and then you want to use the other control stick to control your camera, and it doesn't work that way. This kind of has tank controls, where your character is always facing forward, and the camera follows that forward motion. So you have to kind of move the camera around with the control stick that controls your movement as well. It takes some getting used to, especially nowadays in third-person games where we're really used to controlling that camera. The other stick is used for your evasive moves, and the quicker you can sort of master how to backflip and dodge attacks and things like that, the better off you're going to be. It took me a long time to wrap my head around that, and by the end of the game, though, it really kind of became second nature. Other things, you have your punch combo, which you can set up to, I want to say 6, to the square button, and you can just hammer on the square button to build up a combo. And then the triangle and the X button are kind of used for your high-powered moves. You can, assign high-powered kicks that will launch enemies across the screen on there. The great thing about the control scheme and the button presses and things like that is it's fully customizable at any point of time in the game. So if you're finding that your punch combo is not working, just hit start, go into the menu, and try to figure out new combos to make yourself a really powerful fighting force. There is kind of the mentality that you want to have like the really high-powered punches and things like that. And I found that if you start putting in the punches that will hit like 3 times for each one button press, then those are what you want. You want a big stringing combo to really juggle these enemies and build up your, I guess, God meter. I'm not sure what they actually call it in the game. So you can unleash your huge attacks. Basically, when you unleash the God Hand, it makes you invulnerable and it speeds up your attacks. I think it adds a little bit of damage to it as well. And you just become like a flurry of fists attacking these enemies. Now, the enemies, the AI in the game is not that great. Enemies will just kind of stand there and wait for you to come up to them. So you can sort of pull, like if you see a big group of enemies, you can, if you're very careful, kind of pull one enemy at a time away from the group and attack that way. But the controls are not spot on. They are actually very loose, and the whole game kind of has a rushed feel to it, and especially when we get into the graphics, we'll talk about that. But the gameplay, you're going to die a lot in this game. Just before you even put it in, just know that you're going to get your ass handed to you a lot until you figure the game out, and then even then the boss battles will, or even just the normal battles, you will die a lot because there's a lot of cheapness to the game. Several times when I was fighting, especially towards the end of the game, where you fight the really powerful normal enemies that take a lot of hits to die, I would oftentimes try to use my R2 unleashing the God Hand to get invulnerable and just deal a lot of damage to these people, and it just wouldn't work. It just decided that no, I didn't hit the R2 button, and I would get pummeled and just cheap shotted. Sometimes you'll be fighting one enemy and really kind of focusing on the blocking and the rhythm of combat, only to have somebody come up and sucker punch you in the back of the head with like a stick or something that does extra damage and kill you. There really is a lot of cheap deaths in this, but you have a good arsenal, and you always feel like even though you died in sort of a cheap way, you still want to come back and finish the game because you want to see what the next crazy situation this character is thrown into. There's another system called the roulette wheel, which as you collect skull cards throughout the stage, you'll refill the roulette wheels, and there's some skills that will only use 1 dot, there's some that will use 2, and there's some that use 3. I think you can go up to 4. I only got up to 3, but I think you can get 4 roulette wheel dots. And these are just sort of special attacks. The one that was really useful to me was Crank Yanker, which is you kind of put your hand up, pull the enemy towards you, and punch them once, and it instantly puts them into a pummable situation. And as you build up your combos on these enemies and deal damage to them, you will dizzy them. And once they're dizzied, you can press the O button to do a pummel, and he'll either rapidly punch them or rapidly kick them, or in the case of certain bosses, do a very boss-centric pummel, which, like with the gorilla, you'll do a gorilla suplex, which takes off a huge amount of damage. So I can't state enough how important understanding the roulette wheel is in this game. As you move through the stages and fight, you'll collect money, You can take this to a shop, buy new techniques like new combos and things like that. You can upgrade your health, which I will I will tell you to do whenever you can. Upgrade that health and the TP, the tension bar, as much as you can, so you can unleash the God Hand and have a longer amount of time with the God Hand. There's a casino there where I imagine you wager on fighting enemies. I never tried it. There's a lot of things that I didn't do in the game because at certain points it just got kind of frustrating. Every now and then in stages you'll find like a red flying fairy. These are challenge missions, and they really are pretty challenging, especially at certain stages of the game where you're at, where you don't have like a full good combo going. You're kind of piecemealing a combo together from not so great moves. By the end of the game, you'll have a great punch combo going. But I just found that I would rather play the game and experience the storyline than do these challenge missions. If I ever go back to this game again, I will definitely do more of the challenge missions and sort of take my time with it more. This is a game that actually I will think, Ada, stop it. I got both of the kids here this weekend, so. Anyway, this is a game like Deadly Premonition where I do really want to go back to it and experience it again, but I'm going to put it on the shelf and let some time pass before I go back to it. The graphics. This is where really, with sort of the controls and the gameplay, the graphics are really what makes this feel like a rushed product. And, I mean, there is... If you get too close to a wall, the wall disappears and you can see through the wall. There's a lot of pop-ins, and the game just looks ugly. It just looks like an ugly game. But after you play it for a certain period of time, there is some real charm to it. I don't know. There was just something about it that kept me kind of coming back. And it is nice sometimes that you can run up to, like, because sometimes you can actually go into these buildings that are around you. And if you go up to the wall and kind of stand next to it, the graphics will kind of jigger out, and you can see into the building and see if there's enemies and boxes in there to break to get, like, fruit to replenish your health and things like that. So, yeah, the graphics, it's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes it helps you, and sometimes it's just like, oh my god, this game is... it could use some more polish. Actually, that reminded me of one thing that I want to talk about, the gameplay. Every now and then when you fight a normal enemy, once you beat them, it will unleash a demon. There'll be a demon possessing that person, and you beat them. And the demons, especially in the early part of the game, are really powerful and take a lot of energy to beat. So it's best to hold off on using the God Hand on normal enemies unless you really get stuck in a situation. Because if you beat that normal enemy that's giving you trouble, odds are sometimes a demon will pop out of there and then you have to fight that demon. So be aware of that. Use the God Hand as sort of a last resort, except in bosses. Boss battles, beat the shit out of those fuckers. But anyway, back in the graphics, yeah. There is a certain amount of charm to it, but you can definitely tell that... you know, I don't know, maybe they just decided to put it out like that, but I know that with Capcom wanting to close and dissolve Clover Studios, it kind of makes me feel like this was just like, alright, let's just put this out because you guys are done. And it didn't get all that polish that you really would want from a game like this. I actually kind of wish Platinum would kind of... I don't know, Capcom probably owns the rights to it, but you know, they're never going to make a God Hand 2. So why not give it to Platinum Games, or Platinum Games buy it from them, and make a God Hand 2. That'd be really awesome. I'd actually really enjoy that. On the music front, crazy, wacky audio. I mean, the characters' voices are not what you would expect. Some of them are very humorous. The music is... kind of a weird mix. It depends on what stage you're at, because you kind of start off in this Wild West sort of town, and it has sort of a spaghetti western Wild West sound to it. And then like there's one stage where you kind of move to Egypt, or like an Egypt-like place, and it kind of has a, you know, an Egyptian sound, I guess, whatever you want to think of when I think of Egyptian music. You know, usually think from movies, and it's kind of that weird caricature, but I found the music and the audio presentation to be it really fits with the game. Let's put it that way, because all the digitized speech has that really like digitized sound to it. Specifically, what I'm thinking about is like Resident Evil 1 or 2, when people talked and you could hear sort of the equipment recording. It has that weird like processed sound to it, and you know, in a PlayStation 2 game, that would normally be a minus, but with this game, it just somehow felt a part of the game, and I don't know, you know, I feel like a lot of the flaws that I'm just like looking over in this game, in other games, like say for instance Resident Evil Revelations or something like that, you know, I feel like I'm giving this game and like Deadly Premonition a pass because they're not trying to be like AAA titles. You know, they know where they're at, so they're like, let's take a B movie approach to it. Whereas Revelations is a AAA game, and I feel like they should really put the effort in to make that a really, really solid experience. But I actually really enjoy sort of these diamond in the rough, hidden gem type of games. So if any of you guys out there know of any games like God Hand or Deadly Premonition that, you know, or Time and Eternity, that's another one that I would say fits into this category. That, you know, you're playing kind of a rough, not so great game, but at the same time, just the overall presentation makes you think, I really enjoy this game. So, yeah, if you guys know of any other ones out there, let me know, because I'm definitely kind of on the look for these these games like this that are just so bizarre that you really don't understand. You have no idea what you're playing. You know, there was a couple times I think in the chat where I said, "What did I get myself into with this game?" But yeah, that's God Hand. If you guys can find it out there, it's definitely worth a shot to play something a bit different. You know, it actually reminds me a lot of an old school NES game in a lot of ways, because it kind of has that unfair difficulty to it that you feel like the entire world is really out to get you. And I feel like in a lot of modern games you don't get that anymore. That just overwhelming sense of challenge that you get with like old school NES games. So it's definitely worth a shot if you can find it out there. I would definitely recommend picking it up if you like beat 'em ups, or if you like just bizarre games. If you like Deadly Premonition, then you definitely need to give this a shot, because it's right up there with it. Just sort of in its presentation and just the overall batshit craziness of it. So God Hand, yes, I love it, and I'm so glad I played it. It was a very sort of palate cleansing game. Now I feel like I'm ready to tackle an RPG, so I guess we'll see what I start up next. But anyway, that is it for God Hand, guys. A great game. Definitely check it out if you can find it. But that's all for me, so I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.